To whom much is given, much is required. Part of that requirement is sharing. Culture is the heartbeat within our lives, and it's at the core of so many things. While we live in a time when we are starving for wisdom, I welcome you to your wisdom retreat at Culture Raises Us. Wow. Well, today, I, as you can see, have the pleasure of having my dear friend, June Ambrose, on, who I've known and worked with, literally since the early 90s. And literally.
Yeah.
And she's literally had her fingerprint of styling and outfitting some of our most iconic creatives, such as Jay-Z, and Missy Elliott, just to name a very, very, very few. And some of our most iconic moments, I think, from a cultural standpoint. But before I have you give everyone a deeper look into who you are, we always start our sessions with, when you hear culture, what does that mean to you?
Oh, wow. What a great opening question, because I feel like culture is literally on the tongue and pulse of everything that's happening right now. It's the conversation when it was literally all we knew. It was living. Culture is living the life in which you were inducted into.
Mhm.
Like, when I came from Antigua in the West Indies, I was planted in the Bronx, New York, the home of hip hop. And culturally, I have my West Indian culture and the foundation of who I am and how I was raised. But then you had that Bronx culture, that energy, that atmosphere, that cipher, that soundtrack. There's so much context to culture. You don't get to really understand culture unless you've lived and experienced the stories that have been told, right? All the stories attached to cultural moments are because they're great context and stories that are behind them, that give them credence, that give them cultural significance, is because someone lived. You're walking on the shoulders and in the shoes of someone who, experienced all of those things that we talk about. All those cultural nuances is someone's blood and sweat and tears.
No, I love that. And I love that you mentioned the soundtrack, which I think really resonates as well, because cultures very much, I think, represent the soundtrack of our lives, right? Because there's so many different elements to it. And when you think about soundtracks, there's always so many different elements to those, right? The different moments in which they're capturing in a movie or in a show. And I think culture represents that as well in the way you were breaking it down. So thank you.
I like to say that fashion is to lyrics. Fashion is to style what lyrics are to music.
Great. Go
Right? When you
with
think
that.
about that,
I want to dissect that a little bit.
right? Yeah, fashion is to style what lyrics are to music. Like, there is no, like when you hear a beat, when you hear music, it doesn't necessarily, you don't get to hear the story until the poet starts to speak or the singer has sung, right? But with fashion, it's mute without style. Style is the voice. It's the articulation of the tangible thing that you're looking at. So when, and music is not tangible, but like words tend to be. So I always go into everything when I'm, creating or designing something with that in mind, with that intention.
I love that analogy. You just had me thinking all the way, because for me, I've never been into fashion, but I've always been into my own style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I find that it's an evolution over the years of picking up elements within fashion, right? That
Right.
I'm then able to interpret and create my own style, which I definitely have my own style. Okay.
You do. I see the heart on your chest. Yes. You wear your heart.
Literally and
You wear
figuratively.
your heart on your sleeve, and you're wearing your heart
Thank
on
you.
the
Look at you.
outside.
Look at you. So that's a great segue. Who is June? Tell everybody else. I'm very privileged to know you pretty well, but I'd love for you to share a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I would like to think that June Ambrose is a storyteller, and a dreamer, and a very precocious little girl. I always ask my young self for permission to continue to be curious and fearless. And I think curiosity is one of many ways of reinventing yourself and not getting stuck
Yeah.
creatively. So as long as I'm curious, I think I'm infinitely creative. And I know I just love to learn things every day. So I'm a student. I'm a student of life.
Yeah.
Um, and I go into most things knowing that I don't know it all,
Mhm.
that I don't take myself too serious. Um, but I'm someone who loves living life to the fullest. I love doing things that make me uncomfortable.
Mhm.
June Ambrose is someone who likes to turn little black pieces of coal into diamonds.
Yeah.
I think there's something about um, what I've contributed to hip hop culture over the next year will be 30 years I've been in the business. And I like to think that it was more than just playing dress up. It was more than just putting clothes
Way
together,
more.
you
Way
know.
more.
And I think that there's so much to unpack there because, the word stylist is such a beautiful, celebrated title now. But my contribution um, in the industry from inception, I came into it as a costume designer
Mhm.
because I didn't have access to clothes to put together initially.
Yeah.
I could only see the character and what I wanted it to become and be in my head. And then in order for me to kind of translate that and interpret it, I had to develop it and design it. And to be frankly honest, the big fashion houses weren't very interested in Black
Yeah.
music. And that's where I started my career, on the backs of Black artists. And yes, I did editorial. Yes, I've done advertising. Yes, I've done white boy bands. Yes, I've done pop culture moments and worked with artists that are not hip hop artists. But I would say proudly, I am extremely proud of my contribution to hip hop
No,
culture.
you should.
And it being the 50
You should.
years
Absolutely.
celebrating.
Absolutely. And you should be. I mean, you literally epitomize the label of a cultivator. And we talk about cultivators on this platform who plant these seeds that grow into and blossom into these amazing things. And you epitomize that over the years within this fashion space for sure. And while, people will say you've styled some of the biggest stars in the world, right? I would say that you actually styled a culture single-handedly with your high taste level that merged what you just said, street culture with high fashion in a way that only you could do. And I want you to take me back though to that paradigm shifting moment when you wanted to bring these elements together by using, like you said, hip hop artists and culture as a canvas to do it.
Um, well, I think that the work really started to be celebrated and recognized through the music video
Mhm.
art form. Uh, you could do an album cover packaging, you could do a live stage moment, but it was what we were doing in the music video space that were like mini
Mhm.
movies. The director Hype Williams was definitely one of the pioneers, and really afforded me the creative privilege to be imaginative and collaborate with him. He was we truly were
Yep.
inseparable. Yes, I went on to work with other directors, but they always
That's
wanted when I
right.
gave
That's
Hype,
right.
So it's like, and I can name them, but I have to give Hype his roses because he truly was the glass ceiling
100%.
breaker, and he just didn't see things the way a normal human would see them, and I think he had the audacity to do things that were so out of context to what is
Mhm.
gangster or what is street, and how to celebrate female energy. When you look at artists like Missy Elliott and what we did with Missy Elliott, that wasn't, the styling was like after the creative direction and the design
Mhm.
was done, right? And Missy's personal style and the persona, because like what is style, right? It's persona,
That's
it's
right.
energy,
That's
it's
right. All the
attitude, it's
things.
articulation, right? It's all the things that as a designer I have to collaborate with, and it's like you can render something to the subject, the creative subject. And if their style and persona and swag doesn't bring it alive, then everything that then it's not really a
Mm-hmm.
collaboration. It's like, no one person can take credit for, something that was so collaborative. And I like to use the word collaborate because I just think, especially in what I do, it's like I can creatively render something to you, but without you, it doesn't, it falls
That's
flat
right.
and it's mute. So, um, whether I'm driving the car or not, whether you had zero input, at the end of the day, you're the one delivering it. So I give it all to
Mm-hmm.
you. I don't, it's like, I don't need credit. I don't need to say, I made you, I
No,
gave
no.
you this, but some people get really confused. And I know it's because of the vulnerability of the artists that I worked with that my work was
Mm-hmm.
seen. It was for them, for their trust, for their fearlessness, for their their immense talent, and desire to really create a legacy for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And I want everyone to look at it that way, so that we could celebrate each other in the moment and not feel like it's taboo to give someone
Yeah.
credit for
Yeah.
doing something. It's like I think that people feel afraid. If I give her credit for this, then I don't, you know, then I no longer
Mm-hmm.
own it. But you do own it. You will always own it because you
That's
delivered
right.
it. You know, I just recently did an interview with Poppy
Oh.
interviewed me. We talked about the red shiny suits. I always told my side of the story, but V Magazine did a profile on me called The
Mm-hmm.
Heroes, and where the artist interviews, the
Mm-hmm.
subject. And for the first time, he got to, tell his side of the story. And I got to listen. And it was really, I mean, I got off the call like so
Mm.
emotional because you realize that no one ever really asked,
How about that?
like, no, do people even
Mm-hmm.
care? And to hear him say, it was because of you, and thank you for
Pushing
pushing
me.
me out of my comfort zone, or for insisting, because you knew in your gut. It's like when you're in the studio, a
That's
hit
right. That's
record.
right.
Like when I'm working with a client, I know in my the butterflies happen, my stomach starts to get tight, I start to sweat. I know when
That's right.
magic is about to happen. I just have that feeling. So I always think like a producer. I always go into something waiting for that feeling to hit me. And that's what I fight
And
for.
you know what?
And some things, yeah. And some things you just, sometimes the fight is just not one you
Right.
can have. And you have to kind of say, okay,
But that's the art of
um,
collaboration, though. And that's the beauty, right?
it
That's
is.
the beauty, the back and
It
forth,
is.
and for Puff to allow for a space for your expertise to be able to punch through in the space that they brought you in here to have the expertise on. No, no, I know it's such a simple thing, but it really isn't in today's world because so many people get caught up in who they are, their positions. They should be able to know everything. They should be able to have the last
Right.
say. They should be able to dictate where things go as
Right.
opposed to empowering the experts like yourself.
And my styleology has always been, you
Man,
come first. If it doesn't connect, and if it doesn't feel right, we
man,
move on. It's not
man.
about me. When you look at someone in their eyes and you tell them what your intention is, your true intention, uh, I think it changes
Agree,
the dynamic
agree,
of the experience and of the
agree.
relationship.
It breaks the walls down.
You
It
know,
breaks the walls down of, okay, you're not coming in here just to do
yeah,
this for the betterment of you so that you look good. You got a bigger picture
right,
vision.
right, right. And I want this for
Uh,
you because I want it for me. If I want it for me as badly as we of course we want it for you want it for yourself, but I want it for you
that's
too.
right.
Is that's love.
Mm. Well, you've often stated that fashion is an outlet that lets you tell stories without words, and you were actually just even talking about that. Talk about the power, I think, and the opportunity in using a medium with no words to impact a culture, though, in the way that it has.
We're all visual. We're very visual human beings. We stereotype,
Mm-hmm.
we typecast, we draw an opinion. As humans, this is our nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everyone profiles.
Yep.
right? I go into it with that intention. And it's like always like, okay, what is it that I'm trying to say? Who am I trying to attract? And knowing that culturally, you know, how marginalized people of color have always been since the inception of my life. I've only known it to be this
Right.
way, you know, because of when I was born. I wasn't born in the 60s and definitely wasn't born during any Jim Crow, anything like that. But I know what it's like to be left out of a conversation. I know what it's like to experience what marginalization feels
Mhm.
like. I know what it's like to not have the same opportunities, but I also know what it's like to not have to ask for permission to be
Mm,
great. And I know what it's like to adjust an invisible crown. I know the feeling of
mm.
knowing what I deserve and how I feel. I've always felt great, right? So I try to instill that in when I work with people, like spend less time thinking about what other people's opinion of you are, what they are. And what other people's opinion of you is none of your business. Is what I was taught growing up. That's other people's opinion of you doesn't matter. It's what your opinion of yourself. And I stand on that. So when I work with people, I always say I don't get distracted by that of what you say I cannot have, or because of who I am or what I look like, color of my skin, I can't have these things. If that was the case, we wouldn't educate ourselves.
Mm.
We wouldn't live life. So all I need is a foot in the door, a little bit of access, and I'm on and popping. So I don't get distracted by these things. So for me, I went in saying, this is what we're worthy of. This is how I see it to be. This is what you're an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Whether you're working under the record company's umbrella or not, but a lot of these cats in the early days, they were coming from, being CEOs of their street hustle.
Mhm.
Very smart
Very smart.
individuals, extremely smart. And they didn't have any other option. And they were good at what they did. And they were looking of ways to kind of take that. And I'm talking from every sector. And I'm talking about from the LGBTQ community, introducing that world into the world of hip hop and bringing them into the fashion space because they had their own crimes going on in their communities. Then you had, females who were being
Yep.
objectified. There was so many narratives um, and things that I had to kind of work through. But I think because I studied acting and because I was a theater major, because I understood like fourth wall and character development, and I studied costume design, and because I understood um, that you can build characters into being very
Right.
believable, and you can develop them into a place that the audience sees it and they're just like, I
I
get
get
it.
it.
And that's how I storytell. So if we were, Jay-Z, Feeling It music video, we shot that in Jamaica, and I was seeing a yellow suit.
Uh-huh.
So I designed a linen yellow suit. I went looking for the fabric, and I wanted something that felt like Al Pacino and gangster-like, but still had a very soft shoulder, very relaxed kind of Armani energy, Italian boss. So I started building that character out based
Mhm.
on, those references. And then we went on to do, you know, so many. I worked with Jay from before he was an artist when he had a record
Eh,
label. And to be able to still have him as a client and consider him a friend almost
says a lot.
30 years
Says a
later
lot.
says a lot.
And
So,
30 years later of evolution, like a constant
yeah.
evolution. But this is kind of what I was referencing at the beginning. Within that evolution that you were collaborating with the likes of a Jay-Z, you were also evolving our culture because the icons and the moments you were leveraging helped to shift the way in which our culture looked. I mean,
Mhm.
throwback jerseys to button downs to jeans.
Listen, I designed the first jersey dress on Maya in the Jay-Z Carolina of New
Boom.
Jersey music
And that was
video.
iconic. Iconic.
I did it again for the NBA. I did a runway fashion show for the NBA. And then,
Let's know.
that's something I get to kind of brag
As
about. I mean, maybe.
as you should, and then some, because that is, I think, a small element. Like I said, you styled a culture. I was writing something down right before you jumped on that I felt categorized, the essence. It's very hard to categorize the essence of your impact, right? But I said you are literally woven into the fabric of our culture, literally and figuratively.
Mm. Oh, I got
I mean,
goosebumps.
but I mean, this is real, and you've accomplished.
Probably the best compliment.
You're
That's
very
great.
welcome.
Thank you.
You've accomplished so much, and found success across so many areas of importance. I do wonder, what is it that you are most proud of, though, in all of this, right? Could it be something that defines who you are? Was it a barrier you overcame, or a specific status quo that you broke for the better? What is it that you are most proud of?
Oh, wow. I have a number of things, but I think the fact that I was able to, at the height of my career, that I was able to have it, when people are like, oh, you can't have it all. I have a family.
Mm,
I have children. I have a partner. It's like,
oh,
you know, I'm proud of that
as you should.
because I could have put the work first. People are like, oh, my clients and my babies. No, they are not.
Hmm.
It's work. And I'm able to separate all that. And so I'm proud that I was able to raise two amazing, amazing human beings in an industry, and they see me,
Mm,
and it's been a time that's very difficult to raise young
it
people.
is.
You know, we have it's different from when we were growing up. There's so much more access. My kids were always with me, at work, but in a way that was responsible. I was very protective of them. That they're solid human
Yes,
beings. They are. I'm proud of that.
as you should. I mean,
I was able to pull that
no,
off.
you are.
I was able to pull that
You're
off.
definitely family first, in all things. While many might not feel that or see that, because they see all,
They give me room. Yeah, they give me permission to be
which is
me,
awesome.
and yeah, and to continue to contribute, which is really
But and
nice.
then the other side of that is what a great inspiration you are for them, because the two of them now think they can do absolutely any and everything. Why? Because we've seen our mother do it. Like,
And
we've watched her,
but
which is beautiful. And so I want to talk about, it's no secret that many of the biggest fashion houses that have made it a point in the last, I think, decade to recruit lead Black creatives to expand kind of their brand growth and overall appeal. You've also had some experience and influence in many of these bigger houses. How does this make you feel when these fashion houses pull and recruit from our culture? And what does it take for this to be done authentically? That's the key word for me,
yeah,
authentically.
I mean that's a great question. I mean, many years ago, we planted these seeds very many, many, many years ago,
I,
so that we could kind of we're living in the future. We're seeing we're reaping the benefits of what we did many, many years ago. A lot of people don't know that I was a creative director for Missy's Respect Me Adidas collaboration.
mm,
This was before Pharrell, before
yep.
Yeezy, before any of those collaborations. We were at the forefront, the early days of, you know, fashion collabs.
Mm,
It just wasn't happening. It doesn't mean that there was no cross colors, there was no
no,
hawk and
gotcha.
eye, but just in terms of big fat, like there was definitely the for us, by us, and all that. But to be able to kind of, and also just to get big fashion design houses to loan clothes
Was a big thing.
for these music videos was a
That's
path.
right. Major path.
You know, celebrities were not sitting front row. You have celebrities walking runway shows
That's
now.
right.
They were not. They're flying them in.
That's
They're
right.
they're doing these co-brand collaborations. Look at all the big fashion houses, Vuitton and everyone. The collaborations are insane.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that what we did, everything that we established back then, was so that we can kind of see what we're seeing now.
Mm,
And I think it was kind of the non-apologetic. We're gonna do it on our own.
mhm.
And that's why they came.
Mm-hmm.
We we invested into their
That's right.
business, right? They didn't give us anything for
At
free
all.
initially,
Thank you.
right? And it's still not for free.
Mm.
It comes in costs, okay? So I just want everybody to be very clear that high fashion owes us a thank you.
Mm. You could say that one
The
more time
big
if you like.
fashion
You could
house,
say that one more time if you like.
yeah, they owe us a thank you
If
because
thank you
I
look
know the
like.
amount of money.
What does that look like? What does that thank you look like?
Well, I think they think it's what's happening now. It's like I'm going to put this person at the helm of, but it's why, one particular artist had a complete meltdown because it was not enough,
Mm.
right? It's like, oh, you can partner with me. I can build your business, billions of dollars, but you won't give me a store.
Mm.
You won't give me a, factory, but but why should they? We have to build our own.
Mm.
You can't, it's like, they don't owe us anything.
Mm.
We owe ourselves. So it's like, it's a great platform for mass exposure. They have the infrastructure. They definitely years and years with these houses. This is generations old. But we also now are on the inside. We see how you could build an atelier.
Mm.
We see master tailors. You see now kids of color going to Italy to study and working at these big fashion houses, and as artisans, as fine refined tailors and designers, technical designers. You see more of that now. So with that being said, you got to identify and make sure that those particular diverse groups of
Thinkers and
individuals
leaders.
that you can then let, the way the Italians were like, I'm going to snatch up all of these Italian artisans and open a factory and open a house. You have to identify this next generation of, a group of talent, and know that you then have to start to recruit them when you open your house.
There it is.
So it's
time. It's time for the next evolution.
You can't get too excited thinking, oh,
That's right. The shiny object. We're cool. We're at their show. They let us do a collection, or
I'm the creative director.
It is doing it on our own.
Listen, don't get me wrong. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. What the late great Virgil was able to experience and accomplish and pave. What he won, we all won. And I've had conversations with him, and he had plans.
Mm-hmm.
And then he knows exactly what I'm saying right now. He knows because he's seen it. He was incubating talent. He was creating an opportunity where young kids were like, I want to study design, and I want to study it in Paris. I want to study it in the south of France. I want to study it in Italy and Tuscany. You now have these kids who are studying the art form. And it's because of kids like Virgil who made it. Kids like Pharrell who made it. Like they're, but there are levels to making it. You know what I mean? So what, you're not at a big fashion house, you're not accomplished. You know what I mean? There are many ways of making it. My position here with Puma, I feel like this chapter is, I look for white space, places where I can make impact. And everyone has their own lane and way, and everyone's stories are going to be so significantly different. We may all have things in common, but everyone's journey, I feel like, is their own.
Agree.
So for me, I'm so curious still. I'm still always navigating
and learning
next and learning and like looking for that space that I can be as impactful as I was, back in the 90s. And that's how you reinvent yourself.
So, I'm sorry, I have an issue with reinventing. I just want to share with you since we're family.
Oh, please do.
The statement alone of reinvention means that you have to recreate something from scratch because the first version wasn't good enough. I'd like to say, how do we evolve? How can we be in evolution, which is taking where we are and continue to grow
but sometimes you feel like but sometimes you feel like it is no longer good enough.
No, correct.
Because you grow out of certain things.
Facts.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this hair, I don't like it anymore. I'm going to reinvent the idea of maybe not bone straight, but now I'm going natural.
Right. So we can't be an evolution of that. We can't be evolution of that, because what I don't want to do is
you can, but it no longer serves me to wear this kind of hair.
facts.
You know, like it's like we can evolve, but we're reinventing not a bad thing.
Okay. All right.
I see why you say it, because you feel like exactly why you said
It diminishes the original. It diminishes the original. Like, we're not reinventing the wheel.
That's powerful.
We're not reinventing the wheel. The wheel is great.
But as humans, come on, you've had positions in your career where you're like, I've grown out of this position.
Yeah.
It no longer serves me. And you don't want someone calling you that anymore.
You know what?
Because you know that it's no longer good
At that point,
enough.
June, full transparency, I think the reason why I have this feeling is because within some of my roles and journeys in some of these buildings, you've been told, hey, you know what? You might need to go reinvent yourself so that you can be positioned differently, because there's some things that and I was like, wait, is that code for saying like I'm not good enough and I need to?
No, I think, but that's corporate experience, right? That's the corporate world, right? When I left corporate America in 93, 92, I worked at an investment banking firm in the research department. So I know what it's like to work in the confines of
these environments,
corporate energy.
Yeah.
I know what it's like. I was the only young person and of color in the environment. It was very lonely. And the reason why I left is because the person that I worked for said to me, I will tell you when you move up. I will tell you when you can investigate something else. And that didn't sit well with me. So I was being paid to stay in check, not necessarily to grow.
And be your full, unapologetic self.
Right? So, I mean, listen, financial literacy has afforded me a tremendous amount in my career. I have no regrets from that experience. It prepared me
for everything
to go off on my own and my entrepreneurial, destination. So I get it, and I have no regrets.
No,
it was a wonderful and sometimes painful experience.
And it's part of growth.
However, it no longer
served me.
It
no longer served you. So you reinvented yourself.
That's right.
And speaking of the reinvention, I do want to congratulate you on the Puma partnership. You have a super fan in me who was clapping ecstatically once I heard the news, and then to see the product hit, just knowing who you are and what you represent. So super, super happy. What's the new perspective that you envision bringing to, because I think it's women's basketball and the athletics category in general, right? So you talk about white space. What is that? And are you happy with the outcome of the first couple drops thus far?
Oh, yeah, tremendously. I mean, I think when you think about the space, female and women's basketball, and probably more than most, because you have spent many years
in space,
working in this space. And you have spent many years watching, not even thinking about female basketball. And we just, let's be honest, we didn't think about it. It was like, it's a league. It's like night and day. You go to the WNBA All-Star, then you go to the NBA All-Star.
One is an experience, another one is a game. Right.
It's like, it was mind-blowing to me.
I'm sure.
And I just felt like I've always been a pioneer for speaking for those who couldn't speak for themselves or whose voices weren't loud enough. And what was great about what we did was we kind of approached it from a different perspective, right? We gave context to these women who are on the court, not just as players, but as women. Like, they matter. How they are contributing not only to the sport, but to society. That they are mothers and sisters and wives and daughters. And I thought that was really important, that we humanized them so that it wasn't so like secular. It was like, it's such like a thing where it's like, oh, no one really, you think about it, it's like, enough people go to the games. The pay gap is just
ridiculous,
insane,
ridiculous.
But it's for so many reasons, right? That they fly commercial and the guys fly private, and it's like, again, because there's not enough light being, shined on. There's not enough support are enough people showing up to the games? Is there enough a desire to make it a thing? And so when we talked about launching women's basketball, I think life is a sport, and we've always played to win.
That's right.
So I wanted to approach it from on the court, off the court. So it had performance aspects, because Puma is rooted in performance, and they're really good at, that's one of their superpowers. But then there's also the off the court. What does that lifestyle look like? And coming out of a pandemic and launching women's basketball, I think worked to our benefit as well, because I think we were all so much more conscious about the things that the have-nots.
That's right.
And
There's an openness. There was a bigger openness.
Yes. And because I approach it from a stylistic lens, I'm clearly not a ball player, but I think because I approach it from a place of style and sport, it had a tremendous impact and got people talking. And that was my job. So it was a setup for Breanna Stewart launching the first basketball sneaker. She's Puma's asset, one of our biggest players. You had Skylar Diggins also launching a collection. And it was, for me, I just wanted to kick open the door for these women so that they can be able to adopt a consumer that didn't just see them as basketball players. So it's like, oh, if I don't play basketball when I'm not wearing Skylar's, jersey or hoodie or her basketball shorts or her leggings or, Stewie, I'm not I don't play ball. So why would I be interested in wearing her tracksuit?
Right.
But because there's a lifestyle aspect to it now. So we approached it from a very different space, and it had a tremendous, great sell-throughs. And I've been working with the brand, with Puma in other divisions, which has been great too as well. I'm rooted in women's basketball, but I'm also launching a collab with Motorsport in June.
Nice.
I worked with the brand on a very big brought them back to New York Fashion Week with Future Grade.
Very nice.
Where the brand, got to really present ourselves in the streetwear space and in the select fashion space, so that we could be part of that conversation. So I think what I've been able to do here in a short 3.5 years is just scratching the surface of
Agree.
Of what's to come
and what's possible. I think, and kudos to Puma for recognizing the gifts that you can bring to the table to help further authentically expand not just their reach, but their connectivity and relevance. Right?
Yeah. Kudos to Emery Jones and Jay-Z as well.
That's right. Facts.
Because Emery is the pioneer that started the conversation. Jay continued it and brought it home, and felt that I was the person for the task.
Love it.
And yeah, just having that support and having my brothers walk me in.
Well, yeah, it's having people
and
speak
living
for you.
up to
That's
the
right.
expectation.
People speaking up for you in rooms that you are not present is one of the biggest superpowers that we can leverage more. And Jay-Z and Emery are amazing examples of that in the many rooms that they're going into, and ensuring that names are being dropped and people are being put in position to succeed in the excellence and the expertise in which they have. So thank you for being part of that tree that they are planting in many areas and industries, and rightfully so, for sure. So back to fashion though. When is fashion at its best in your eyes? And then when is it at its worst? And what do you tell young designers and creatives to help push their craft and our culture, more importantly, forward?
I think fashion's at its best when it's authentic. I think, to dabble in something and when it loses this authenticity, you have to know that it's time to get back to the root in which you are not culture vulturing or trying to keep up with. Social media has changed the dynamics of how brands market and position themselves, and a lot of them have lost sight of their DNA because they're trying to keep up with what's clickbait, or who's the hottest one on TikTok and Instagram. And it's like, you got to focus on the art and the creativity, because you start to lose a sense of yourself. So I think fashion is at its best when it when it's reminded of its DNA, and that knowing that that is enough and that they don't have to reinvent, but maybe like you said, um,
Just evolve.
just evolve. Because you think, no, but think about the House of Chanel and some of these houses that have not chased those
Right.
spaces
Super authentic. Super
and
authentic.
focused, right? So I think that a lot of the brands are going to start to really reevaluate
Mm,
um, how much influence they're going to take from the outside,
mm,
from 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 people who are of influence because they have an opinion,
mm.
not necessarily the experience.
Ooh. Yeah, you were saying a lot right there by not saying a lot. Yeah, I know you want to. Yeah. It feels like this is a great opportune time to start, I call it the movement that you spoke of doing it your own, on our own, creating our own in this space. When you have, as you say, these big houses starting to relook at how and what they do in terms of evolving, that feels like there's an opportunity for others to come in with a voice and an opportunity and to put another POV in this space.
I mean, there were rumors that high fashion's gonna get a stare with they're moving on from streetwear.
Mm,
They're moving on.
mm.
What does that
What's that mean?
mean? You're moving on
How you
from
moving on from
from
something that helped put you where you are? It is what you are.
well, here's the reality. You can't even put a face on hip hop right now.
Mm,
If you look at it and if you look at it and be like, oh, that's like, what is it? It's evolved so much. You can't even like it used to be baggy pants with streetwear.
right.
But now you got guys in jeggings and blouses and skirts, hardcore homies from the hood.
Right. No, you're right.
So streetwear is style.
Mm,
The customer you can't move away from
mm,
because they don't need permission to come in and buy it and take
boom.
it and interpret
And
it
make it their
themselves.
own.
You could do what you're gonna do,
Uh-huh.
right? And as you move away from that, then the true arbiters of it all will build their own houses with the authenticness of, you know, how we see street
I
fashion.
love it. This is a call
And
to action.
we can all play in the play yard together and know exactly who we are.
Eh, that was just a word.
What they have done is given streetwear a global stage,
Yes.
hip hop a global stage.
Yes. So, has anybody had the largest impact in your eyes on shaping fashion culture?
From a high fashion design house,
Any. I'll take any perspective.
shaping fashion
The
culture.
largest impact. Who do you think has had the largest impact on shaping fashion culture? Is it
That's such a
subjective?
I would have to say I would have to give it I can't. It's not one
Please.
singular person.
Cool.
I think it's a group of people, and it's not just because it's 50 years of hip hop and we're all talking.
No,
about
please
it,
go.
but it's what has hip hop has become hip hop, and that genre is what used to be alternative music is now the number one genre in the world.
Mm,
You kind of have to give it to what they call street culture.
mm.
It's hip hop. And it's for why I just said what I said, because it has evolved, reinvented itself.
All the things.
It doesn't have a face.
Nope. It's not
Because
monolithic.
it's all about swagger and persona and attitude and energy and interpretation. And there's something that's so colorful about that genre and unapologetic that even high fashion they've been
notes.
taking notes from the beginning.
Mm. Are you
I still see costumes that I've designed in the 90s being interpreted and referenced now, today. Last year, the year before. I see it.
You see it.
I see it. Metallic leather, jumpsuit.
Cyclical. Everything is cyclical. Comes back around.
I see it.
Are you inspired by others?
I have receipts.
I'm sure you do. Are you inspired by others outside of your industry?
Oh, absolutely. I'm constantly I love celebrating and and seeing how creatively free um, people are. I'm a people watcher.
Yes.
I love going to other parts of the country and, you know, someone from Tokyo or Japan running up on me and saying, I know who you are, or nice to meet you, or I have this streetwear line and da 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 da, or not knowing who I am but likes my style
Right.
and we're
Just
talking
gravitates to it.
and I just love how um fashion is so colorless and neutral and it's such a common way of
It's a
communication.
language. It is a
It's a
language.
it's a
A
language and
language.
it just kind of it doesn't feel as stigmatized as so many other things in our lives. You
Yes.
know what I mean? It's like it's just how you can really talk to anyone
But that's
from
why you're so
color.
important though.
Oh
That's why you're so
my God,
important because that
it's
language,
multi-generational too
yes,
as
but
well.
that language is so necessary to punch through all the agendas that have been built, June. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I look at you as such an important part of how we're going to shape things moving forward because that language breaks down so many walls in a way that's not defensive, right? People aren't worrying about what you're going to take from it or what they're going to lose. They're more incited by this energy that they feel on this language of fashion and style is one that makes them want to connect more and have a
Mhm.
conversation and some dialogue. So please understand your superpower. And I don't want to throw this burden on top of you as you're running the world of Puma and all the other things that you're doing. But I do feel that there's an opportunity here for you to continue to be at the forefront of helping that language to help our collective world get to a better place. Is that too much pressure?
We are the
Or
world. Yeah,
did I
no, not at all. No,
I'm serious.
it's good. No, no, no. I,
Do
I,
you receive this?
I receive it and I accept the
Okay.
mission.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
What else do I have to do with my life?
Um, well, I
I'm
mean,
like, why not?
look, I can continue to help motivate on other things, but you have a lot on your plate. And as soon as we check off some of them, we could add some more because you are so
Why not?
needed and so equipped and so credible. And you're coming from the
Thank
most
you.
authentic place of kind, love, joy, peace. Like that's the place you're coming from. Yeah. You're not coming from a place of
Namaste.
this is just better for June. I know this.
That,
I know this. And that's
that,
why that's why I'm pouring into you this right now.
this first co-branded collaboration that I've done with Puma, bearing my name, because the first one that I launched for them was not co-branded. This one is called Keeping Score
Yes, I saw that.
because I thought it was so important. It's not just about me, but it's about us.
Mm,
And we've done a number of activations where we're recognizing Hood Hall of Famers. We're keeping score of, you know, those contributors of like, how my sister's keeper, like, like what the next generation, creating opportunity and safe spaces and creative spaces for, and for us to celebrate and acknowledge each other and create opportunity. I think we have to keep score of, the people that have made promises.
mm,
We have to continue to apply pressure, keep their foot to the fire,
thank you.
keep them accountable.
Thank you.
I think we have to be accountable for each other.
Thank you.
Um, and I'm just, I'm keeping score of my wins. My losses are my lessons, so I
Mhm.
don't really count those. Um, but I'm definitely keeping score of my wins so that they can fuel me to know that I'm enough,
I love that.
that I'm capable.
You're beyond
Yeah.
enough
So
and beyond capable, and I think you're a great example for others to also look at within themselves being enough and capable, and knowing that we're all a work in progress. Like you said earlier, you're
definitely,
constantly learning, right? And
definitely.
that's going to be the story of our lives until we're gone. It should be. That's the hope. And so,
That's our legacy.
yeah,
Our legacy, right? Yeah.
we usually close these sessions with, because we make the analogy a ton about planting seeds and how it's watered and how it blossoms into this beautiful thing. And I'd love for you to share what you think are three very critical seeds that you'd want to leave with the stewards of culture moving forward. What are those three seeds?
Mm. Ambition,
And
fearlessness, and love.
simple, simple. Well, you are a reflection of all.
Thank you.
So continue to be the light that you are, and know that you have a support team behind you to help in whatever way possible. I mean, I think back to when we first met, and like you said, when you used to have to pull clothing from high-end fashion brands, and you were pulling stuff from me on a regular basis when I was at Nike trying to help with all the
Right.
endeavors that you were doing. That sentiment and that principle never changes. It only evolves. So how do we
Right.
now continue to serve and help each other in these spaces to help us collectively be better versions? Because we're mediocre at best as a society. Mediocre
Yeah,
at best.
for sure.
So I
At best.
at best. So I thank you
Yeah.
for the excellence.
We can all do better.
Yes, I thank you for the excellence that you represent. I love your spirit. I
Thank
love
you.
everything about you. And I'm very grateful that you're a dear, dear friend. And I thank you for this time.
Likewise. Namaste.
Namaste. We truly appreciate your support because it helps us fulfill our mission of promoting cultural awareness and personal development. Please click the subscribe button below to help ensure and solidify our mission.